Martin Scorsese back in the gangster genre with The Irishman.
It's the J. Craig Movie Review. Movie Review. Movie Review.
Directed by Martin Scorsese and starring the usual cast of characters of Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Harvy Keitel, as well as a newcomer to the Scorsese world, Al Pacino. Now, this movie tells a tale of Frank, who is Robert De Niro's character, and he's recounting the tale or the days and his possible involvement with the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, the Teamsters president of the unions back in the day. Now, this movie is long. First thing I'll say is I walked out of this movie. It was 3.5 hours long. And I felt it was a little self-indulgent, a little full of itself at first. The more and more I sit on this movie, the more and more I think about this movie, the more and more I really like it because of the performances and what they were really trying to do. I say self-indulgent because it felt like almost like a Jim Jarmusch movie where there's a lot of pauses and really long takes of silence, and I really appreciate that. You don't get that a lot these days, and those movies that do have a lot of silence and not a lot of talking, people find them boring these days, right? They want more talking, say more, tell me what you're feeling. But this movie does a lot of silence. It has a lot of character thinking moments, character just emoting, their expressions based upon what they're feeling, what they're going through, and what they're being told. I really, really enjoyed it for those little moments now that I'm actually starting to think about the movie as opposed to just like, oh God, I'm finally out of that movie. It doesn't move slow, but there are slow moments. You know what I'm saying? It moves pretty quickly, but it does have a lot of slow takes or long takes, and some, because it's not a lot of dialogue, people are going to find it kind of boring, I think. It's just kind of where we are now, unfortunately. But in the world of the gangster movie, there's no one better than Martin Scorsese, and this movie feels to me like kind of coming back to Goodfellas. Scorsese has still made some decent movies, but I haven't been in love with what he's been making recently. This movie really feels like a return to form for him. It feels like Goodfellas. It looks like Goodfellas. I'm sure you don't have the same kind of characters, are very different from everyone. Pacino and obviously De Niro are very different from what they are in Goodfellas. But it just feels like it belongs in that same world. The character design, the details, the costumes, the setting, the dialogue, it all fits very, very, very well. And of course, you have all the really great elements that make up a gangster movie. And in this movie, what I really was impressed with was the subtext of the dialogue revolving on what they were trying to not say. For instance, if you want someone to get whacked and someone to get killed, you're not going to just come out and say that. You have to talk in a code. And this one they talk about painting walls, and I'm a painter and I paint walls, and I also do my own carpentry. So there's really cool elements that they're using as subtextual dialogue to what they mean. And then you have characters that have to really kind of figure it out, like, what are you trying to say? And then they ask questions, and they have to do that in a subtextual way, right? Where they're not coming out and saying it, but they have to try to get down to that answer without, maybe reading it wrong and having a bad hit. So there's a lot of really cool gangster stuff going on in this movie. Of course, you see the far-reaching nature of the gangster and the mafia within the unions and how they were really a big part of the unions and how Jimmy Hoffa and people like Frank helped that kind of keep going and help that progress. And it's a really interesting story. It really is. And really, there's a lot going on with Al Pacino's character, Jimmy Hoffa, but this movie is Frank's, Robert De Niro's character, and it really is a good character study on someone who has guilt and remorse and who does things that are horrible and then has to look his family in the eyes and has to look his daughter who knows he's up to no good, who knows that he's a bad man. And how do you do those things and still pretend that you're a loving father, right? And so there's some interesting dynamics that I really loved more and more that I think about this movie. Okay, so I want to talk about the characters really quickly here because everyone in this movie is really phenomenal. You have Joe Pesci, who's coming out of retirement. They asked him 50 times or so to come back for this movie, and he finally said yes, and he was really awesome in this movie. Pesci is phenomenal in this movie. He's cold, he's calculating. You know he's a guy you don't want to cross because if you do, someone's going to take care of you, and he's going to go to bed and eat dinner, and he's going to have no problem sleeping at night. He's that kind of guy, and he's really, really good in this movie. You have Harvy Keitel, who's not in it a lot, but very effective being Harvy Keitel as a gangster, right? Then you have De Niro, who obviously is really, really good in this movie. He hasn't been this good in a long time, folks. And then you have Al Pacino, another one who hasn't been really good for a while. He's made a lot of crap movies, and this movie really allows him to be kind of an over-the-top, character again. And it really fits because he's great as over the top at banging and making noises and doing the Al Pacino thing. Hoo-ah! He does all those kind of crazy things, and it fits this character. So it's a really good mesh. And then you have the de-aging aspect, which I was really concerned by. They use it a lot these days, and I always can tell. You look at it long enough, you can see the facial features. You know that mouth's not the same. It just looks created. It looks digital. This movie does an excellent job at the de-aging and the aging process. We're getting several different agings of De Niro and Pesci. You're getting from young to super old, to the point where I didn't know where it stopped. I didn't know where the current day Robert De Niro was and what they were using as a digital effect anymore. It was really phenomenal. For everyone involved, Pesci, De Niro, Pacino, when they're using this de-aging process, it looks phenomenal. But here's the downfall of using this kind of technology, is you're still using Robert De Niro's old body, right? Walking around with this younger face. And it looks off. He doesn't get up as fast. He doesn't kneel down as fast. He doesn't move as fast as he would as a younger self. And you see those big Robert De Niro shoulders, those old man shoulders he has right now on the younger face, and it just looks weird. But to a point where it didn't really pull me out, I just kept noticing it because it is 3.5 hours long. So I noticed those little things, but it really was an excellent de-aging process. You really can't see where it starts and where it stops. It's really phenomenal. I really, really like this movie. I know a lot of people are going to give it a hard time because it's long and it's slow, not a lot of dialogue. Get over it. That's movie making. That's storytelling. It doesn't have to be dialogue. It doesn't have to be verbal. There's more to be told within the characters as they're acting. So I really enjoyed it. The more I sit on it again, the more I'm really liking it. If you get a chance to see it in the theater, it's a Scorsese movie. See it on the big screen if you can. If you can't, it's going to be on Netflix soon enough, and I think it's going to do very well there. So hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow the J. Craig. See you next time.
It's the J. Craig Movie Review. You watch till the end. Thanks, like, and subscribe.